The 10-year-old psychopath. The summer after I graduated college, I was living in a house in Berkeley with a few PhD students. It wasn't the best neighborhood, but it wasn't the worst either. There were a few families living in the neighborhood, including the people in the house next to us. It seemed like a reasonable, nice two-story house, but on several occasions there were police cars and or ambulances outside of the house. We never really questioned why, as police cars weren't a rare sight in the area, and we had only ever seen a young girl and her mom at the house, so there was nothing overly abnormal or concerning. One afternoon, my roommates and I had just finished smoking a joint in our backyard when we hear a knock at the door. I open it, and it's the mother from the next door. I was a bit taken aback, and even more so when she says, "Hi, I wanted to ask you guys something. I really don't want to have to call the police." At this point, I'm thinking, she must have seen, smelled of smoking weed, and while it was Berkeley, it technically had not been legalized yet, so I'm thinking we need to apologize and talk our way out of trouble. But then I noticed this woman is visibly shaken. She was clearly terrified and said, "I just don't know what to do. I'm having a situation with my daughter and I really just need another adult to be there." My roommate Sean and I immediately agreed to go with her while my other roommates look on, incredibly confused by whatever the hell is going on. This mother is asking some stoned students to be adults? She must be truly desperate for help. Sean and I walk over there with her and she explains that her daughter had some issues, which are currently manifesting as her standing on the roof of their house, threatening to drop her mom's work computer off the edge or jump herself. Wow, shit just got super real. Sure enough, we walk up the driveway to the house and there is this kid standing on the roof of their two-story house, dangling a MacBook Pro over the side. She's saying in this disturbing sing-songy voice, "Look, mommy, no hands, mommy, no hands." Sean and I immediately make eye contact. We are both creeped the fuck out. This is not a normal kid. The way she is speaking reminds me of the twins from The Shining. She's not crying and doesn't seem remotely distressed. On the contrary, it appears she is enjoying this torment of her mother like it's some kind of a sick game to her. The mom starts explaining to us that her daughter has had issues like this for many years. She has a psychiatrist and a therapist, and the mother has called both. They're recommending calling the police, but the mother has been through this quite a few times before and doesn't want the child to go through the ordeal of being restrained and taken to the hospital yet again. She is frightened and exhausted and doesn't know what to do. So I just start talking to the kid. I tell her about how I used to love climbing on the roof of my house and now I'm into rock climbing and I bet she would love that too. Besides, it's much safer than climbing around the edge of a roof if you make sure to use the proper gear and safety precautions. And the fact that she's so unsafe right now is really scaring her mom. I told her if she comes down, I'm happy to talk to her more about climbing, as well as show her the pet geckos we have that literally climb up the walls. I am just pulling things out of my ass at this point. I have no idea what to say or how to mediate a situation like this. I'm just trying to diffuse the tension and get her to calm down. She's flat out ignoring me at first, continuing to taunt her mother, but eventually she seems to get bored irate with my attempts to engage her, turns around and climbs back towards the window where she got out onto the roof. She runs down the stairs and out to meet us, then says in the same weirdly sing-songy fake "come play with us Danny" voice, "I dropped your computer on the roof and now it's broken. I'm sorry mommy, do you forgive me?" There was zero remorse whatsoever in her voice. It sounded so disturbing and manipulative, I was blown away that it was coming from a 10-year-old girl and not some demon child from a horror movie. The mother is still shaken and just looks overwhelmed. So I offer to go up and get her computer from the roof. She agrees and escorts me through the house up the stairs with her daughter trailing behind. It appears to be a perfectly normal, well-maintained middle-class home. The girl is clearly irate with me spoiling her game and repeatedly orders me to leave. I ignore her, climb out of the window onto the roof, and the laptop is sitting by a gutter, seemingly unscathed. I climbed back through and handed to the mother. At this point, the girl realized her bluff was called and skipped off to her room. Mom proceeded to explain to me that this whole thing was triggered by her changing the password to her laptop after the girl logged into it, stole her mother's credit card, and ordered over $2,000 worth of stuff. This girl is freaking 10 years old. She has been pulling shit like this her entire life and no one understands why. They had to move the girl's younger sibling into a separate apartment with her father because they were afraid she would hurt him. The mom was crying at this point, saying they really tried their best to get her the help she needs and they are just at their wits' end. I did my best to reassure her, gave her my phone number, and told her to contact me if she needs help in the future. Sean and I noped the fuck out of there after that and went back to our house. She never contacted me and we moved out a few months later. Are you alone? Back in high school, I lived pretty closely to my school building. It was maybe 15-20 minutes walk at the most. In my senior year, I had 2 free periods at the end of my day instead of class. I took extra courses in night school and summer school the year before, so I would usually start walking home around 1:30 or so. The area I used to live in was extremely quiet, to the point where depending on certain weather or time of day, it was unnerving to walk the streets. It was suburbia, but the kind where people barely come out of their houses. It was a super rainy day, the sky was murky and no one was outside, not even for a walk, despite it being daylight. I had my headphones in, listening to music on the way home. I was nearing a small library around the corner from my house when out of the corner of my eye I noticed this large van with tinted windows. No one was parked near the library because it was closed that day. Odd, I thought, that someone was choosing to park there now. I continue walking until I hear a muffled sound. Curious, I took one of my earbuds out and looked up to my right. The front seat of the van had rolled down the window and I could now see the face of a middle-aged man with a mustache. I was confused, wondering, was he talking to me? And he drove slowly alongside me, presumably repeating what I didn't hear earlier. Are you alone? An alarm immediately went off in my head. There was no one inside and I was a small teenager who didn't know what to do. I panicked, put my earbud back in, and as I turned around promptly to walk the other way, he began to glare intensely at me and turned his window vent around to follow me. My music was paused and I was pretending I didn't hear him. I had 2 choices: the elementary school coming up ahead or back from where I came. The back of the elementary school was hard to reach quickly and I was scared I'd corner myself in. I kept walking quickly, not looking at the van following me. I was on the way back to my high school. Once I got closer, the van sped away quickly. It was getting towards the end of the school day there, and people were starting to leave. Almost hyperventilating, I go into the office and tell the secretary everything that had happened. I got my mother to pick me up, and as we drove home, I described the van to her. We reported it to the police, and the next day I was picked up earlier from school. My mother, the smart woman she is, decided to drive by the library that day around the time I would usually walk home. It was quiet out as usual. Then she saw a van with tinted windows. As I described to her, it was parked, waiting for someone. Waiting for me. We gave the police the license plate and explained our concerns. When we checked back in on them, they told us that they found the owner of the van. He was renting the basement of a house nearby the library. He said he was there waiting to pick up his kids. The elementary school wouldn't have been let out until nearly 4 p.m., so why was he hanging out there around 1 p.m.? It was clearly a lie, but the police just said they would keep an eye on him and that they weren't in their rights to do anything else. Frustratingly, the last update we got was that he moved away shortly after, with no consequences.